In this video, I'm gonna show you how I review the GA4 properties of my clients and how I optimize the tracking to get the most out of Google Analytics 4. If you're in the analytics space, there's no way you have not come in touch with Google Analytics 4 and the shutdown of Universal Analytics and then the migration from the one to the other and the differences between this one and this one.
And the new data model, which is only event-based, and then predictive analytics and enhanced measurements, and then the new recommended event system, and then...
Okay, let's take a step back. Since the end of June this year, Google has officially shut down the data processing for the standard Universal Analytics properties. Therefore, a lot of companies migrated over from Universal Analytics to GA4, the new version of Google Analytics. Now, nearly all the properties that I've seen so far, the migration was done in one of two ways. Companies either used the automatic migration by Google, which, by the way, Google themselves do not recommend, or they try to copy the Universal Analytics tracking into GA4, which comes close to a squared peg in a round hole. However, in both of these cases, the actual potential of GA4 is not being leveraged. But who am I to even tell you this? Hi, I'm Vikash, data analyst and UX researcher for over 5 years now. I founded Vikash Analytics to offer my data expertise as a service to other companies all over the world. That's why today, I want to show you how I audit and optimize the GA4 tracking for my clients. Usually, a GA4 audit consists of several steps, like checking the property settings and the data retention and the
data collection and the data filters, and then the audience and the data tag management, and the data layer pushes.
Okay, I need to stop doing this. Today, we're only going to focus on the tracking analysis part of the GA4 review. What that actually is and how that looks like, we'll see as we go. Let's get started. Alright, welcome to the Google demo account. Alongside this account, I would like to show you how I approach the auditing of a GA4 property if, for example, I have a new client and they ask me to review their GA4 configurations. In that case, there's already a GA4 setup and you want to get a good grab on how things have been configured and if there are any recommendations you want to give to adjust the current tracking. So every GA4 property starts with a data stream. Let's navigate over there by clicking on the admin section on the bottom left, and once this is loaded, we click on data streams over here. Now in this case we see one data stream, and this will cover most of the cases out there. But if you have, in addition to your website, an iOS and an Android app, you will probably need multiple data streams. Let's open this one by clicking on it. After some stream details, we see the event configurations, with the first one being enhanced measurements. These are crucial for every GA4 property because here we configure what kind of events GA4 should track automatically. Since we cannot open the enhanced measurement options in the demo account, I'm going to refer to the screenshot I prepared in advance. First up, there are page views. These are always activated and we cannot disable them, but in some cases, that is if you have a single page application, you might want to check the advanced settings and see if you need to activate this option of triggering these events on history changes. I don't want to go into too much on SPAs in this video, but I'll link a tutorial about this from Julius in the description. For the remaining events, I usually recommend my clients to disable the scrolls and the form interactions. That is not because I don't think that these informations are not useful. The automatic scroll tracking sends a scroll event whenever the user covers 90% of any of your pages. But if you're actually interested in a scrolling analysis, you might want to implement the scroll tracking via Google Tag Manager and add additional scrolling thresholds, like 50% and 75%. For the form interaction, the enhanced measurement is just very unreliable. I've seen this tracking fire on various occasions besides the actual form submit. So you definitely should implement form tracking if on your website, for example, the user can send you a contact form, but do not rely on the enhanced measurement here. Moving on, I usually recommend to enable the outbound clicks. They come in handy in a lot of analysis, and the event that they trigger is simply called click that you can reuse in a lot of other use cases as well. The recommendations for the remaining site search, video engagement, and the file downloads are dependent on the features implemented on the website. If, for example, you do not have a search capability on your website, it does not really make sense to enable the site search enhanced measurement. After checking the enhanced measurements, I usually close the data stream and move on to the event list. These are now all the events that have been tracked in this GA4 property in the given time frame. To get a better overview of this list, I usually copy them in a separate sheet. So let's open a new sheet and copy these events in here. After this, I add 2 more columns to this table, calling them tag and comment. I'll show you in a second how I use them. Now, this list of events should be complete, but in some cases, there are further events that have not been tracked yet that we should definitely add to this list as well. One place to look for them are these two buttons on the top of our event list, Modify Event and Create Event. If I click on Create Event, I see that there are 5 more events that are not on our list yet that have been defined over this option here. Let's add them to our list. All right, now we can also add into the comment that these have been created over the Create Event option and that they have never been tracked. Let's check the other option, and we see that there are also some rules about how incoming events should be modified. In this example, we see that the incoming event add to cart is being altered to add_to_cart. Let's add this in our comments as well. Now that we've added these informations to our list, I continue to categorize these events into 3 categories. The first one being automatic. So what I do is I create a little tag like this, and then I add this tag to all the events that are automatically tracked by Google. Now that we've tagged the automatic events, I continue with the second category, the recommended events. If you're not familiar with what recommended events are, you should definitely check out the support page from Google that I'll link in the description. Basically, recommended events are tracking templates for common use cases, like for example, purchase. If we use these recommended events, several dimensions and metrics in GA4 will be populated automatically, which is super powerful. So let's jump back and create a new tag and add these to all the recommended events. After this, we can tag the remaining events as custom events. Now we've tagged all the events in the list and I just sorted them by the tags. With the next steps, I now try to get a better understanding of how the events are being fired. We could, for example, check for audience triggers. To check for audience triggers, we go back into our GA4 property and we open the audience section over here. Now, if we look in the list of the audience and open this one, for example, we see that an audience trigger with the event name top spenders has been configured here. That means that if a user fulfills the requirements to be added to this audience, he not only gets added to the audience list, but this also will trigger an event called top spenders. So if we go into our list and we look for top spenders, we see an event here. This is basically the result of this audience trigger. So let's go through all the audiences and mark the audience triggers in our event list. All right, I went through all the audiences and added the comments to the respective events. Now we can go into our GA4 properties and check the conversions. Here we see all the events that have been marked as conversions. But we also see that there are events that are not on our list yet because they have never been tracked. So let's fix that by adding them to our list. I've added these 3 conversions to our event list. Now let's mark all the conversions from this list in our table to make them stand out. Now there are several things we could also do to review the setup of this GA4 property, but this is already a pretty good starting point to get a grasp on how the tracking concept of this property looks like and what kind of events are in there and how we could optimize the tracking concept. In order to optimize it, I tried always to look at the tracking concept and follow some principles that I have also already prepared over here. So for example, when designing a GA4 tracking concept, we should always try to follow some principles, like avoiding some redundancy, for example, which would mean that we don't need a triggered purchase event if we already have a purchase event. Also, we should always follow this cascading principle that I've mentioned in point 2 here. For everything that I want to have tracked on a website, I see if it's already covered by automatic events, and if not, is there a recommended event that I could use for exactly that case? And if that answer again is no, only then I go for a custom event. So custom events are basically our last way to track something. The next step would be to check all the never tracked events. If an event has never been tracked, either fix it or kill it, because it's not being used. And lastly, I see Google Analytics 4 as a receiver of events, not as a modifier nor as a creator. So even though Google Analytics 4 gives us the option to modify and create events, I always recommend to not use these and configure all the tracking in Google Tag Manager or wherever your tracking is implemented. Lastly, there's one more thing that could be of interest for you. If I actually do this for my clients, I don't go through this process manually like I did in this video. I usually leverage the GA4 data API and use the properties get metadata method and a Python script to automate all of this process that we talked about in this video. If you're interested in how to automate the GA4 review, let me know in the comments and I'll make a video about it as well. All right. That's all for this video. Now you know how you can approach any Google Analytics 4 property with a tracking analysis in order to understand what kind of events are being tracked and how you can give recommendations to optimize the Google Analytics 4 tracking. Please leave a like and a comment if you enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in more parts of the GA4 review, then make sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, let me know if you notice anything weird going on in the background here.